I want to make a modern floating bedside table using the traditional woodworking mortise and tenon technique, which is no easy feat. First, draw a design plan, prepare a solid wood board, and cut it into the required size. I'm already quite familiar with cutting materials. With just a pen, a fence, and a small stool to form a workbench, I can cut 2 boards at a time. The cut surface is smooth, and it can also ensure that the top and bottom boards are the same. After cutting all the pieces, take them home and get ready to cut the mortises. The mortise and tenon is like interlocking fingers. After placing a ruler on the board and leaving some allowance, draw the mortise tip line. Distinguish the positions of the male and female mortises and use the fence to assist in drawing them completely. Mark the male mortises to be removed and then use a back saw to cut grooves along the line. With the fence, it won't deviate. The half mortises on the side can be directly sawed off. For the other parts, first use a jigsaw to remove large pieces. Then hold a chisel in the left hand and a hammer in the right hand to chisel. Chisel half of it first and then turn it over to prevent the edge from chipping. The repaired notch is neat, and then finally trim the corners. When making the male mortises on the top board, align the board and draw the position along the edge of the female mortise. After marking the parts to be removed, follow the previous steps. When assembling the male and female mortises for a try, it seems that the gap left is a little small, and we have to use some force to hammer it. Then, as expected, something went wrong. Since it's broken, who can help me? I don't know what the problem is. Let's search on the internet first. It turns out that the structure I made is exactly along the wood grain, so the mortise tenon is easy to break and wear. It needs to be made perpendicular to the wood grain to bear the force. So I cut a new board with vertical grain and spent another day repeating the previous process. This time, it fits perfectly. After knocking it tightly with a rubber mallet, it's seamless. Although there are some dark marks, they can be polished later. Now, don't tighten it completely. We need to add a wireless charging module, which is very convenient for charging at night. Then, add a light strip at the bottom of the cabinet and install a partition touch switch. Then mark on the board and use a router to cut grooves on it. After all the grooves are cut, the devices can be hidden inside. Next, we start to assemble it and use wood glue for bonding. It can be used to fill the gaps between the voids, making the structure more stable and durable. After assembling, let it dry for 4 hours. Now the cabinet is dry. As for the extra parts, you can choose to polish them with sandpaper. First, use 100 grit sandpaper for rough polishing to flatten the extra mortise heads, and then use 300 grit sandpaper for overall polishing to remove the burrs. Then polish the corners at 45 degrees. Now it has a seamless look and doesn't prick hands, but there are still some small flaws. You can mix the wood powder, just cut off with some wood glue evenly and fill the gaps with a scraper. After it's completely dry, polish it with 1000 grit sandpaper until the matte texture is achieved. Then remove the dust, prepare a bucket of wood wax oil, and apply it evenly by wiping. Applying wood wax oil not only prevents water and mildew, but also prevents the wood from cracking. After the overall application, let it stand for 24 hours. Under the setting sun, it even shows a golden color, and after drying, the color becomes more natural. First, install the wireless charging device inside, and then install the switch. As for the light strip, directly install it in the groove at the bottom. The effect is seamless. Then install a concealed slide rail with a sulfur-bound device at the bottom plate, and then install the drawer. Then install the drawer panel, and then the knit stand is complete. Next, we need to make it float on the wall. First, pat it to the appropriate height, and then check if it's level. If there's no problem, mark on the wall, and then use a metal detector to ensure there are no steel bars and wires. Then drill holes in the wall. After all the holes are drilled, apply some rebar adhesive in the holes so that the expansion bolts can be placed to prevent loosening. Then fix the floating bracket to the wall, and it can bear dozens of kilograms without any problem. As for the power supply, just hide it behind the drawer, which is not only beautiful, but also ensures the maximum space of the drawer. It's also easy to clean the area under the cabinet. Now, test the partition touch switch. Besides controlling the switch, long pressing can also adjust the light brightness. At night, you can directly place your phone on the knit stand for charging. It's extremely convenient. Up to this point, a floating knit stand combining traditional techniques and modern technologies completed. Finally, let's take a look at the effect. See you next time.